What's up, folks? Welcome back to Beyblade Burst. I'm your host, Michael Nightwing, and today we're diving deep into another...
For some reason, every time I try to make something...
Take two. What's up, folks? Welcome back to Beyblade Burst. I'm your host, Michael Nightwing, and today we're diving into the engine gear system from the Plastic Generation. This was one of my favorite... Actually, let me be honest with you. Every Plastic Generation part was one of my favorites. I'm going to say that line every single time. But the engine gear system was definitely one of my favorite systems to be introduced. And I'd love to introduce you to it so we can have a conversation about this amazing system and how it could make its way back into Beyblade X. Let's get started. So just like the name suggests, engine gears had engines in the bottom. This made it very useful during battle because you're going to have increased stamina towards the end or even stronger attacks depending on how your Beyblade was engineered. In this stadium here is all the engine gear Beyblades I currently have in my possession, and each one contains a very different and unique type of ability. We're not going to go over each and every one of them, but we're going to touch down on what they do in general. So to give you a quick understanding of what the engine gear systems were, it's very simple. It's just like a pull-back race car we had when we were kids, where you pull it back, click, 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 you let it go, and the car zooms off. That's the exact same concept that was built into these Beyblades. Now, one major downside to these Beyblades, though, is they got in the hands of a person that was too aggressive with the clicking, it would break the engine inside, making these things very fragile in that sense if they were in the hands of a novice. And obviously, most people that had Beyblades were kids, so they were novice. But that could have been a part of the system as well, because once it breaks, your parents buy you a new one, and it keeps keeping the money running through. The gear mechanisms had different points of activation. Some were always free spinning, so always active. Some only activated when the stamina got low, and others activated upon contact. So the one I showed you earlier is called Rock Bison. That one always activates. So when you're in battle, you have to hold it before you launch, let it go, and then launch your Beyblade. Another one of a similar free spin was called Sphinx. Great Sphinx. This one would activate the same way, free spinning. The last one I have here is going to be Wallborg 4. This one is also free spinning, where essentially it would have an amazing stamina towards the end because of the way the bottom was shaped and the fact that it was always spinning. So even if the bottom stopped spinning, the top would still rotate, and that technically counts as still spinning in a stamina match. So another activation system they utilized was actually having contact with the Beyblade. Like this one here, you'll pull out the tab, and when you crank it up, once it got hit in battle, it would activate. This is an attack type base, gave you really ferocious battle experience. This one right here, defense, and this one's more of a balanced type. Same deal, they got hit, they activated, and they would give more juice to the Beyblade. Then you had ones like these ones from Drigger, Dronzer, Zeus, and also Dragoon. These ones were very interesting because they activated immediately. As soon as you launched and hit the stadium, the engine would activate. So you would start out the battle at optimum efficiency for a quick knockout. Now, of course, when attack type, especially like Dragoon, for rubber bottom, you didn't have much stamina, so you had to give it all you had at the very beginning. So if you had a very strong launch and a very strong Dragoon, you could probably get the KO if you were able to get the good fly pattern started right. So all these Beyblades were very straight to the point. They spun in one direction, and that's how it went. But one of them was very different. This one's going to be the Dronzer GT. This one was very weird. Now, by weird, of course, I mean good, because this Dronzer is a right spin Beyblade, but the engine gear was designed to turn left. So the whole gimmick with this one was you have reverse engine because you want to give it a nice erratic spin attack pattern towards the end of the battle, really keeping your opponent guessing. Of course, your opponent doesn't really do anything because it is a Beyblade battle, but in the cartoon, it was all over the place. So the last activation system in the engine gear system was actually one that didn't have an engine at all. This is Torch Pegasus. This one was a free spinning bottom. And it also did not need a launcher. What you did with this one was you put the ripcord directly into the Beyblade, pulled it out, let the Beyblade spin up, get fast, and drop it in the stadium, and launch just like that. This was totally unique, very different, and very, very weird. But all in all, the engine gear system was a very important system for Beyblade because now you had an option to really give some juice and some life to your Beyblades that you may not have had before. Now, in Beyblade Burst, they actually remade this system with two different drivers. These drivers had a battery inside an actual motor or an actual engine, so it wasn't as fragile as these ones were, and those ones were actually a lot stronger because when they would activate, they would just keep going and going and going and going. They were insanely broken, but also very fun to play with, very reminiscent of the past where Beyblade got its start. So now I've told you all about these Beyblades from 2002. I would love for you to tell me, how do you think this can be incorporated in Beyblade X? And if so, is it even a good idea? Me personally, I'm not sure how an engine-charged Beyblade going on gears at high speed could be beneficial to anybody, but it could be amazing. So with that being said, I'll catch you all later. Do me a solid favor, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and if you can, go home and tell your mom you love her. See ya.